Hey buddy, thanks for tuning into today's video. We're going to do a historic video today. We're looking at the autumn of 1919. 1919 had a very interesting autumn, to say the least. Lots of interesting charts. We're going to look at all those charts in this video. Now, before we get on with the video, I just want to talk about a few things. I want to mention the advertising. First of all, there'll usually be a video ad overlaying my web videos at gazweathervids.com. Please pay those videos. You will be supporting gazweathervids.com by doing that. Also want to mention the website where the charts came from. It's weathercentral.de. You can find Weather Central on my links page. They have a fantastic archive of historic charts going all the way back to January the 1st, 1871. Can you believe? So you can while away many a happy hour looking at the archive charts at Weather Central. As I say, they go all the way back to 1871. And the last thing I want to mention is that you're going to be hearing a lot of information in this video from Trevor Harley's website. Trevor Harley has an excellent website that has every year of the 20th century and the 21st century listed, and the weather in those years broken down into monthly periods. Wonderful website. I say every year of the 20th century and the 21st century is listed. Also has information going back even further than that, and in some cases, some months, there is information going all the way back to the Middle Ages. So a wonderful website, a wonderful resource. Trevor Harley's website can be found on my links page as well. So do please check out those websites if you can. So I'm going to just get rid of the camera, there we go, and we're going to get on with the autumn of 1919. Now I should say the year of 1919 was actually a very cold year. It's the second coldest year of the 20th century, with a central England temperature for the year coming out at 8.48. Only 1963 at 8.47 was colder. So yes, 1919 was a very cold year. The autumn of 1919 really caused that, a lot of that cold weather really. But up to the autumn, the year hadn't been too extraordinarily cold, but certainly once we get to the autumn of 1919, that's where a lot of the cold weather comes from. It was the coldest autumn of the 20th century. But interestingly, and perhaps freakishly, the start of September had a very hot spell. So this is the 5th of September 1919. We've got low pressure out to the west, high pressure to the east. We're bringing up this southerly wind, very warm. But as we go on through the early part of September 1919, actually gets even warmer. There's the Azores high building in. The jet stream is pushed northward, so warm and dry and sunny. But as we go to the 11th of September, this is when the warmth of the start of September 1919 peaks. We've got high pressure sitting here across Central Europe, low pressure up to the northwest, bringing up a very warm southerly wind. Just look at these upper air temperatures. We've got the 15 Celsius isotherm here covering much of England and Wales. 10 Celsius isotherm is actually to the north of Scotland, and to the south we're actually bringing up warmer air than the 15 Celsius isotherm. We're probably getting towards 17, 18 Celsius at 850 millibars, so very warm, hot air in fact coming up from the south with this. And the 11th of September was the peak of the heat, with temperatures up to 90 Fahrenheit at Raunds, and this is almost the latest date in the year, but 90 Fahrenheit, 32 Celsius has been achieved. But as we go beyond this, the weather does start to change, and what happens is that high pressure begins to slip away to the east, and another area of high pressure begins to build to the west. We turn the winds round to the northeast, so the winds are now starting to come from a much cooler direction, actually a north to northeasterly direction. Now, as we go through to the middle of September 1919, we find high pressure building in across the country, but this really was a very dramatic temperature drop, to say the least. So on the 11th of September we had temperatures up to 90 Fahrenheit, as I say. But by the time we get through to the 12th of September, the change in the wind direction pulls the temperatures down just to the mid-teens. So there's something like 20 Celsius, maybe more than 20 Celsius temperature drop going on there from the 11th to the 12th. So by the 15th, the high pressure is back here sitting across the country, but now we're under a very different air mass. This is a much cooler air mass associated with this area of high pressure. Now beyond this, high pressure still dominates weather through the 17th of September 1919. So this is a very dry start to September, to say the least. A lot of high pressure and cyclonic influences, but this is a cooler high pressure with temperatures now nearer to normal. But then once we get beyond this, just sort of what happens, the high pressure pulls out into the Atlantic on the 18th. And the 19th, we're taking that high pressure up to Greenland. We're setting low pressure up over eastern Scotland. We're pulling down this much colder, very cold northerly wind as we go into the 20th of September, where we're pulling down a really cold northerly wind across the country here. High pressure out to west, low pressure to the east. Yes, we're bringing down a very cold northerly wind. Now just look at this. This is the upper air temperature. This is the -5 isotherm here coming down across the country. Your eyes don't deceive you. That is the -5 isotherm. That is one of the things that we look at for snow, and in fact there was snow on the 20th of September, the 19th to the 20th of September. There was snow across Scotland, northern England, Wales. Snow was recorded, particularly over high ground, but over some low ground as well. For northern England and Scotland in particular, there was snow on lower ground, and even down as far south as Dartmoor, in fact, there was some snow. Snow cover lasted for a week across Snowdon during this particular spell. This is probably the earliest recorded snowfall on record. So go from heat on the 11th to by the 20th we're into cold. So 90 Fahrenheit on the 11th, snow falling on the 20th. A very extraordinary September, to say the least. Now as we go in towards the latter stages of September 1919, things start to normalise. The high pressure sinks southwards, low pressure to the north of Scotland. Now we're bringing in a westerly wind, so this is quite a windy, unsettled and wet scenario as we go towards the end of September 1919, although by the 30th high pressure is beginning to build here to the southeast, but certainly things became more normal as we went towards the last week of September. That really was an extraordinary spell of weather through the middle part of the month. We go from that extreme heat on the 11th to snowing across many parts of the country by the 20th, so a very extraordinary switch around. Now October was a very quiet month, anticyclonic. Now we start the month with low pressure out to the west and high pressure to the east, but as we go through the charts we see high pressure really starting to take over here by the 4th and running out towards the 10th. That high pressure is really dominating the weather. This time it's centred just to the west of the country, but high pressure well in control. It's cold, it was a cold month, it was a frosty month. Central England temperature for October 1919 was 7.4, so it was a cold month, the second coldest October of the 20th century, but it was very dry because we had these anticyclonic influences dominating. So there we are on the 17th. High pressure still really is in command here of the weather across many parts of the country. So the 23rd, the high pressure is now to be east again, bringing in this easterly wind, just weather fronts up to the northwest of Scotland, but there was lots of dry weather through October 1919, but it was very frosty, as I say, some really hard frost in places. Temperatures as low as -6, -8 on a number of nights. Now as we go towards the end of October, we pull that high pressure back out to west and set it up towards Greenland, bring down this northerly wind once again, so it turns colder if anything as we go through towards the end of October 1919. A very classic blocking area of high pressure getting going there over Greenland and Iceland, pulling down this really cold north or northeast wind. This would have been bringing wintry showers to the eastern coast. And then as we go towards the end of the month, we find that high pressure starting to become centred over Scandinavia. So the high pressure has been dominating all month. It's just that it's been changing its position, going from the east to the west, back to the east again, then up to the north, and finally we end the month with the high pressure sitting over Scandinavia, bringing in this cold easterly wind. So as we go through toward the 30th and then the 31st of October, where we've got a classic Scandinavian high here to end October 1919. Really beautiful area of high pressure there over Scandinavia, stretching out towards Iceland, bringing in this easy wind. Follow the ice bars, that wind's going all the way back towards central parts of Russia. So yes, it was a cold end to month, not a desperately cold end to month, but it was cold, wintry showers along the eastern coast. And the upper air temperatures, you can see the -5 ice firm there, covering many central and eastern parts of the country at the end of October 1919. So it was chilly, quite cloudy as well. But yes, it was fairly chilly into October 1919, to say the least. But things were going to get even more interesting, and now we come on to November 1919. November 1919 is one of the all-time classic Novembers. It had a central England temperature of 3.3, so it was a bitterly cold November, to say the least. We'd already had a very cold November just a few years earlier, in 1915. Actually, there'd been a severely cold November then, so this is another one coming on the back of that in 1919. Now we start November 1919 with high pressure still dominating. This time it's to the north of Scotland, really. It's breaking away. We've got one area of high pressure over Russia. Our area of high pressure is more centred towards the north of Scotland and Iceland. And we're bringing in this easterly wind as well. There's actually gale across Kent through the early part of November 1919. But what's interesting with this is that we're bringing in this easterly wind, and it's still quite chilly. It's not really severely cold, but it's still cold enough, and it's quite cloudy as well, quite gloomy. As we go towards the 4th and then on towards the 7th of November, notice what's happening. The high pressure is retrogressing. I'll go back to this. Here we are on the 2nd. The high pressure is there centred to the north of Scotland. If we go through towards the 4th, the high pressure is becoming centred over Greenland, another area of high pressure over Scandinavia. If we go through towards the 7th, notice that high pressure now pushing well north up towards Greenland. That's called retrogression. It's when pressure goes from east to west as opposed to west to east, as is normally the case. So that high pressure retrogresses out towards Greenland through the first week of November. We start to bring down this very cold north to northeasterly wind across much of Scandinavia. If we go on further towards the 10th, we can see that that high pressure now is really a dominating blocking feature over Greenland, and we've got a legacy of very cold air now on the 10th of November across much of Scandinavia. We're under low pressure here across the British Isles. That's just acting as a bit of a buffer against that very cold air, but look at the extent of the cold upper air temperatures across all of these northern areas on the 10th of November 1919. A severely cold pool of air. This will be an impressive cold pool at any point in the middle and latter stages of a winter, but have this on the 10th of November really is quite amazing, absolutely extraordinary. Really see such an extensive cold pool here across much of northern latitudes of Eurasia and up towards Greenland as well. A very extensive cold pool there. Now that low pressure is acting just as a bit of a buffer against that very cold air, although it's easing to Scotland on the 10th. But as we go through to the 11th, that low pressure moves away to the east, and now we open the floodgates towards that cold plunge of air moving down from the north. So it's really from the 11th that the severely cold spell sets in as we go through the middle stages of November. So this is quite an extraordinary cold spell with these northerly winds coming down across the country, and these troughs in the flow, they were bringing snow with them across many parts of the country. There was widespread snow, particularly for Scotland, northern England, eastern parts of England as well, but all areas actually did see some snow at times. So, for instance, there was 17 inches at Dartmoor, there was 8 inches at Edinburgh, there was a foot of snow, can you believe this, a foot of snow at Balmoral. So it was a very wintry, snowy middle phase really of November 1919. If we have a look at the upper air temperature, we can see why there was so much snow. The -5 iceberg has cleared the country. Yes, this is -10 upper air temperature sinking down across the country on the 12th. I'll remind you of this. This is the 12th of November 1919. An absolutely extraordinary cold spell this, with really severely cold air for the time of year, and snow widespread. Now, as we go towards the middle of the month, it's still cold. That low pressure is centred there over Spain and France. The blocking area of high pressure out in the Atlantic still reaching up towards Greenland. And we've got the legacy of cold air and many parts of snow covered as well, of course, across many parts. So there was severe frost as we go through towards the middle of the month. We see temperatures down to minus 21 in some places, minus 10, minus 12, widespread in a number of places overnight through the middle part of the month, 14th into the 15th. Say minus 21 was recorded at West Lincoln on the night of the 14th into the 15th. The maximum by way of Balmoral on the 14th of November was just minus 10, and I say that's quite extraordinary, caused mainly by the deep snow cover, but also the legacy of the very cold air that was associated. So this really is quite an extraordinary cold spell. As I say, temperatures getting into the minus double figures overnight across many parts of the country through this middle phase of the month. As we go through towards the 17th, that high pressure collapses to the south. There's an abrupt change taking place with low pressure developing in the Atlantic, starting to bring in a milder westerly wind. So we did have a milder spell then for this second half of the month. Low pressure dominating here to the north. It's much more of a classic type pattern that you would expect to see in November, with westerly winds sweeping across the country to the 23rd. Yes, it's still mild and westerly, but the cold air wasn't quite done with us. It came back as we go through towards the end of the month. Again, low pressure sinks south across the country. We pull off a bit of a blocking area of high pressure out to northwest. Nothing like what we have through the early and middle part of November, but nevertheless, this is cold air coming back again across the country. And then as we go through towards the end of the month, it does stay cold, really, with low pressure here becoming a slack feature across the country. And we're trying to build a block again to the north, but it didn't come off, actually. And believe it or not, despite all of this cold weather, the winter of 1919-1920 was actually quite mild. There wasn't much cold weather at all through the winter of 1919-1920. So it just goes to show you cold weather in the autumn doesn't necessarily mean that the winter is going to be cold. And it didn't in 1919. The following winter was quite mild in actual fact. So I hope you enjoyed this look at the extraordinarily cold weather that we had through the autumn of 1919, starting off, wouldn't you just know it, British weather having a laugh again, starting off with an extraordinary heat wave in the first part of September, but then the rest of the autumn very cold. Of course, we had that extraordinarily cold spell in November. Hope you enjoyed the video. That's it for now.